What up, guys, and welcome to another episode of For the Girls, brought to you by Relationship Restored. Today, we are talking about a hoe phase.
Ooh.
So let's jump right on into it. Let's talk about what a hoe phase is.
Y'all
Who wants to start?
I'll start. So, okay. I struggle with the term. I struggle with it, and I was telling you about this earlier. I just feel like the word hoe phase is like it's outdated. Like I just feel like it's unnecessary, and it takes away from what it is.
Mm-hmm.
To me, when you say the word hoe, it almost is negative. And then when you say the word phase, it gives it like a time limit, a beginning to an end.
Mm-hmm.
When I really think it is an exploratory time in your life.
Oh.
And it could have a beginning, it could have an end, it couldn't. So I feel like when you put...
Maybe you.
Right. I just feel like it kind of, when you say, oh, she's going through a hoe phase, it's almost a little judgy to that person. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying I didn't have a hoe phase, because I'm sure we're going to get into that. But for me, I just feel like it's an exploratory time that men and women should both go through. And I feel like you go through many different exploratory. I am struggling with that word.
I mean, it's a hard word to say.
You're exploring, all right, at different moments in your life. When you're single, when you're married, when you're a mother. And this particular phase that we're talking about is clearly the single one, right? So I think when you put the word hoe on front of it and then phase, you're like, well, from January 2007 to May 2008, I was in my hoe phase.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, what started it? What ended it? And what happened during that time? Like on freaking March 15th, 2008, did you end this phase? No. Like, I feel like there's ebbs and flow in your life.
Yeah.
And these phases are very important, and they make you who you are. So I struggle with the term hoe phase. I know what it means, and I am not against it. But I feel like when we say the words hoe phase, it can sometimes come off judgy.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I don't mind the term. I mean, it doesn't really bother me that much. But I definitely think that this time in your life is just a time for you to express yourself in a way that feels comfortable for you, right? So people go through this phase differently. Some people wow out, and some people, their hoe phase is like, ooh, I'm going to like talk to this person and this person at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Where some people, their hoe phase is, oh, I am running through as many people as I can. I'm having sex with whoever. I'm carefree. I'm a free flower just growing wherever I decide to grow, you know? And I don't have a problem with that. However you want to explore that time in your life,
exploratory,
go for it. And I think everyone needs to have a hoe phase. I am a strong believer in that. I think it's very, very important.
I completely agree. But can we be concrete? Let's be concrete. What are we saying happens during the hoe phase?
Ooh,
Okay, so let me say what I think a hoe phase is, because I think a hoe phase looks different for every individual. I think it's both man and woman, but what I look at it is someone being intentional about not putting strings attached to certain people. They're not intentional about dating. It's really like, I'm just gonna have fun and just not care. I don't associate it with sex. I don't associate it with like being a version of yourself that you wouldn't normally be proud of, but just more so being like, I'm intentionally doing whatever I want, however I want, and I don't care what anybody thinks about it.
I feel like hoe phase is just being single.
Well,
I hope
no,
you
you
wouldn't
can be
go-
single
right.
and intentionally like be working on yourself. That's not a hoe phase. A hoe phase is when you are out here living your best life, doing whatever you want. You're not being intentional about growth or how am I being perceived or like what am I doing to meet the right person. It's all about, you know what? I'm just going to do me. I think the issue is when, because a hoe is a term that's typically used for women.
Right.
It's frowned
That's where I was
upon,
going
and
with
it
it.
looks as if, or sounds like, you're having sex with multiple people.
Right. And
But
I just think
I've
that's unfair
been-
to women.
Yeah,
'Cause
and-
men, they do this too. But what is it called for them?
men are
It's just
the
called
champions of hoe phase.
It's just called being a man, right?
Yeah.
And like,
Not fair.
like if we go through history, let's take it all the way back. Let's take it to like the Roman Empire. You want to be honest? People were fucking. Let's just be honest. Women were fucking then, men were fucking then. Keep going.
Men were fucking men.
Let's go to freaking the colonial period.
Yeah.
Women were fucking, men were fucking. Like it's
We're supposed to reproduce.
I'm saying there's a reason why there's sex.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's pleasurable
Yeah.
for humans. But for women, it's always, there's a stigma, and it has been. And I will say, like, in modern times and now, like, like you said, it's more celebrated for women to have this time.
I was going to say, I think it's very, very
Yes.
common and accepted for women
Yes.
to have a hoe phase.
But it took a long time, and there's still some side eye with it, you know? If you tell your mom, like, hey, you know,
but
Don't
mama,
tell your mom that.
I highly do not recommend telling your mom that
but
you're
I'm
going to
saying our mothers come from a different generation.
100%.
So you tell them this, and they're like, especially little, like my Catholic Filipino mom, honey.
Oh, my mom too.
sweetie."
My Catholic Mexican mom, my mom's already kind of judgmental
Right.
of my lifestyle, period. The way I
Right.
dress, like when I was.
Tell them about the message that she sent when we got to Miami for our girls'
Oh
trip.
my gosh. Okay,
She's so cute.
so we just went on a girls trip, and my mom knows me. She knows that her child is wild. I'm a wild child. I'm fun. I like to party. I'm a good time. And so she sent me like this message and was like, Sierra, I just want to remind you that
Oh, stop.
you need to make sure that you're being conscious of your decisions, because you are a mother now and you don't want your daughter to see something that, you would regret her seeing later on. And also you are a wife, so you have to take that into consideration too. And I'm like, Ma, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. Okay. So
It was
mom's so
also a bachelorette party. You know what I'm saying?
even
Like,
if it wasn't, I was on vacation. My mom will probably send me the same text because she just knows her daughter.
Her mom's so cute.
but we say this, you tell our mothers who are from a different generation this. It's like, ooh. So imagine our moms telling their moms, like, I'm going through this phase. But the thing is, from generation
I think this is more of like our moms, I don't think, have ever used that. This is like a newer term.
A term.
And it's less than the term hoe phase, more about what it actually represents in our generation.
Yes, and they
wouldn't get it.
They wouldn't
No,
get
they
it,
would
but
not get it at all.
they're not going to tell us that they did it too. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
My mom still does it.
I know that's right. Come on, Ma. My mom.
She know what it is.
My mom has only been with my dad.
Mine too. That my dad is the only one, but they're outside of our mothers, and mothers, like, there are mothers who are our mothers' ages who went through this as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
mean,
but they
I
had to
think
hide it
everybody-
more.
The 60s and 70s were a wild time, okay? There's a lot going on. A lot of sex, a lot of drugs, and rock and roll.
The toxic Cece's in the 70s.
Listen, if Toxic Cece grew up in the 70s, wow. Okay?
That was like the period of the sexual
Yes.
revolution, right?
Yeah.
And so we're products of that now, right?
Yes.
So, but the hoe phase, like, and I agree with both of you. I think everybody should go through one, however it looks for people. And I just think it shouldn't be judged from person to person.
Absolutely.
You know, I think it's also a time where, like you said, you're having sex clearly, but you're being intentional about not committing to that person. Or you could just be in a space emotionally where you don't want to take it to that next step.
I know that's
You're
right.
unavailable.
I know that's right.
And I think it's just important because you learn so much about yourself,
and
what
also
you want,
about other people, what you want, what you don't want, what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate.
Right.
How certain men make you feel.
Right.
Like
Right.
you learn a lot from this whole
Right.
phase. So
Right.
so when is it appropriate to explore this phase, do you guys think?
I would say the time that it's not only just appropriate, but kind of needed, and when it usually happens is right after breakups. Right after people go through a breakup,
agree.
I feel like it's kind of like when you lose somebody, right? You have to take the time to grieve, and there's like stages of grief. And when you lose somebody, the easiest way to kind of deal with it in the moment is to replace it with other things. And it's normally the natural thing that happens. But then it's about being intentional about how long are you allowing yourself to kind of stay in that space, and when is it gonna switch to be intentional. And for some it may be years, and for some it may be just a few weeks.
That's why I don't like the word like phase. It's like you're putting a beginning and an end to something.
It's like, child, go through it however long you want to go through it.
And then like you put for a lot of men, you're getting yourself to an emotional space where, hey, I think I am ready to commit, but I have these tools now, these things that I learned about myself that will hopefully make me more successful in this next part of my life, next phase of my life. You know, personally for me, one thing I learned in my hoe phase was, God, I just said hoe phase, Lord.
I know you don't like it. Okay, so what would you call it?
Like I said, exploratory phase.
Okay, well,
you know?
what did you learn in your exploratory phase?
I learned about myself. I'm not a one night stand girl. You know what I'm saying? Like I could be physically attracted to someone. They could be so amazingly sexy and like the conversation is good, but my cat won't get wet for strangers. It has stranger danger. Like yes, kitty cat has stranger danger. And I realized that like I am just not a one night stand girl. And I get that females do it and it's exciting and it's exhilarating. But I learned during that phase in bars, in conversation, in different moments with attractive men that it wasn't doing it for me.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't get myself there.
You're probably stimulated by more than just whatever a one night stand offers. You probably have to know the person a little bit and understand them so that you can be a little bit more stimulated in a different way than just physically.
And then that's something I learned. And like I thought it was something I was supposed to do during this period of my time, like period of my life. But I just realized it's not doing it for me. Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Another thing I learned during that period of my life was, even though you may not necessarily be in a relationship, every time you interact with a person, no matter how long, it is a relationship that's occurring at that moment.
For sure.
So you are learning tools you need to move forward and be in other relationships with people.
Absolutely.
So I will say, like, in that moment in time, I learned that building relationships, it takes more than dates and fancy clothes, fancy gifts. Like that was the quintessential time in my life when I realized that a relationship is way more than X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And then that's when I scratched that list we talked about in one of our previous episodes.
Yeah.
So I know for sure that phase of my life was a turning point for me.
Yeah.
Because after that phase in my life, I met my husband. And I'm not trying to say to our audience, go through a hoe phase and you're going to find your husband if that's what you're looking for.
Because that may not happen.
That may not happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I hate calling it a phase, because you might be perfectly fine just being the most beautiful single version of you.
Absolutely.
Meeting different people, having situationships throughout the rest of your life. Yeah. And if it makes you happy, you learn that.
Absolutely.
You learn that.
You know, I don't really have an opinion on when it's appropriate, because for me, most of my life, I guess, was a hoe phase, because I never had a serious boyfriend until my husband. So I don't really, I've never had an experience where I had a breakup and I needed to get over somebody. Now, granted, I was in a situationship where I wanted him to be my boyfriend, but he didn't want that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to continue to keep doing me. Like, I like you a lot, but, you know, I'm going to suppress my feelings because you're not giving me what I need. I'm just going to go over here and entertain someone else to occupy that void that I'm getting from you. Yeah. So I guess that's also an appropriate way to kind of explore your hoe phase too. So say
you can't really put a beginning to it.
You can't. You can't. No, absolutely. Girl, this started, don't take this the wrong way, viewers.
Toxic Cece.
It started when I was like 16. So I grew up very, very early. I'm sure you guys have, I'm sure I've talked about this before, but if I haven't, now you know. I grew up very early. I grew up around girls who were very developed. So growing up, a lot of my friends and we always hung around older drug dealers. And so we were kind of like in that street life a little bit, but also very bougie. So we were always like 17 in the club, hanging out with older people. So I just was introduced to that type of environment of having fun, being carefree, engaging with a bunch of different men very early. And it was exciting for me. And I liked it. I wouldn't have done well in a relationship early on. I'd say before the age of 28, I just would not have done well. I would have.
See, but that's because of your experience and what you were exposed to and the 100%. Mindset that you had. That's why I think a hoe phase is a set phase. It is a set time frame. Because if you were shown that at 16, and it wasn't until getting all these experiences and meeting somebody like your husband to realize, I don't want that, I want this.
100%.
You had to intentionally end that phase of your 100%. Life and like make the decision to, okay, I want to intentionally date. I want to commit. That's going to go to engagement. That's going to go to marriage. And I think for women who go through multiple hoe phases are women who have had pockets of serious relationships that end, or something bad happens, something traumatizing, they were cheated on or whatever, and they need to just kind of like re-immerse themselves into a different mindset, not the mindset where I'm committed and I need this person, but I just want to live life and have fun. And some women don't ever go through that phase. They don't ever go through a phase of I'm just going to do whatever. They're always, I'm going to read my Bible scripture every morning and I'm going to pray for the perfect man. I'm going to be the perfect person and I'm not going to have sex with this man. I'm not going to give this up to nobody. Women go their whole life not ever experiencing the freedom and the exposure that you've had at any time, or the exposure that you had or that I had. So I feel like everyone's phase is different, but totally I do think it's a phase. I think it's an intentional mindset shift that happens when you know that you're going through that phase, whether you call it a hoe phase or not.
Right.
Whatever. It's your
exploratory phase.
Sorry,
it's a phase.
It's just very difficult for me to say like.
Well, I think it's okay. I think the hoe is what's messing you up.
But the reason, because it has a negative connotation.
Why we're calling the episode hoe phase is because that's what everybody knows it as.
That's the buzzword.
But you guys,
I'm same with you.
I don't like the so grateful for my hoe phase because to your point, Bree, if I hadn't have gone through this 10, 11-year hoe phase, I would not have learned things about myself
that were so important.
That were super important to learn in order for me to be prepared to take on a serious relationship like the one that I was in with my husband before we got married, because I wouldn't have appreciated a man like him. Yeah. I had to go through all of the fuck boys in order to get to my husband. I had to, for me.
And it's different for everybody.
This is what I find as an issue is when women don't take the time to go through just putting themselves out there. How can you appreciate the right man if you're not giving any man the time of day?
Exactly.
If you're not getting to learn the wrong men at some point, like how do you know when you met the right one? And I think one thing that has happened with like our YouTube channel specifically, with it being Worth the Wait, we were kind of put in a box of being like a Christian couple, and a lot of people had like different views on things that we would say in terms of dating and sex, and it's like, just because we made a choice to wait for marriage doesn't mean that before we made that commitment, we weren't out here living our own lives. Dre was a football player at a predominantly white school. He had the hoes.
All the snow buddies.
He had... Woo. We asked him before this episode. Cece said, Dre, what did your hoe phase look like? Did you ever go through a hoe phase? And he said, I wouldn't call it a hoe phase. I just took opportunities of
that. I took
advantage. Wait, I got to run this back because it sounds kind of rapey. I was like, wait, what did you say?
Total disclaimer, no rape happened.
Cece's question was, Dre, did you go through a hoe phase? He said, I don't know if I went through a hoe phase. I just went through a time in my life where I took advantage of certain opportunities. And I was like, it's giving rape.
It's giving hoe phase.
That's not what he meant. It's
hoe
just
phase.
like what he said. He was in a space where he was just doing the things that was right in front of him, that were not any, and had no intention on, I'm going to do this with this woman and marry her. But it's like, because he wasn't looking for that. But the moment he was looking for it, he made a commitment to let go of sex. So it's like, that's what I think the hoe phase is your period of being intentional and choosing when you're going to start and stop a certain mentality or lifestyle.
Can I say something though? And this is for all of the men and women out there. If you are in a hoe phase and you are intentional about being in your phase, when you come across somebody, don't lead them on and start dating them or get into a space where
letting them think you're in the emotional space to commit
Don't
to them.
lead somebody on and think that you're going to commit to them knowing where you are in your life. Be upfront and very candid about where you are in your phase and what you're looking to get out of this situation that you are now engaging with that person.
Because it's just emotional.
That's how a lot of women end up getting hurt.
Because you know what that person wants. You know, and you know what you want. And you might play around with it in your head. That's an excuse that some men may use. I'm gonna, I can see myself being with you.
They say the right
But
things.
if you are not, if you can see it and doing it is way different.
And also, this is another note to the ladies. If a man is candid about where he is in his hoe phase, don't think you can change that man. Don't think that you are so special, and you may be, but don't think that you are so special that you can take that man out of that phase in his life. A man will not change unless he is ready to change.
Dre says that a lot because it is so true.
A man, he'll show you.
He will show you.
He shows you.
If he's candid about telling you, I'm not looking for anything serious, I'm just looking to have fun, then come into that relationship with that understanding that, okay, this is just going to be fun. Get what you need to get out of it, sis, and then keep it pushing.
Well, see, that's the beauty of the hoe / exploratory phase. Sorry. I think that's the beauty of it. And I think Bree brought up this point so well. You meet that guy during your hoe phase.
Oh, yeah, you will.
You meet that guy. You meet the guy who's not in that phase, where you have to be the person to reciprocate that information.
Yes.
So you're learning on both sides what 100%. It feels like in that phase.
100%.
And the phase, that space, it gives you not the freedom, but because you're not committed to someone, and you're able to have these back and forths with different people, you are learning so much about different people and yourself at the same time. It's kind of like that box of chocolates thing where you have to go through a few.
Oh, yeah, to figure out what you like.
Before you get that right one.
It's like, ooh, that's nice.
Yes, I don't like the cherry one. But you're learning about yourself.
Exactly.
You're learning, cherry filling isn't for me. But the caramel can get it.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? But you got to get to the box of chocolates. You have to get there. How are you going to get there? By sitting in the corner, holding yourself back, or by going, opening that box of chocolates, hopefully you're going to run afterwards or something. And you try the different things. And I think you learn about these people, you learn how to deal with these people, and you learn about yourself. Even if it's just a bite. That wasn't good. The coconut one that you put back.
Coconut's not good.
It was that was a nice bite. It was nice, but it's not for me. You know what I'm saying? So I think your point was so perfect. You learn about so many different pieces of chocolate in this phase, and then maybe I'm gonna go back on the whole it doesn't end. The beginning and the end, it doesn't end, because you do have to put the top on it if you're ready to go with just one kind of chocolate.
Oh, yes, girl.
So,
and here's something else I want to say about the hoe phase. So I think it's important that the ladies watching this, men watching this that are going through the hoe phase, don't feel bad about your hoe phase, but also don't let it be a crutch. Don't let it be the reason why you don't grow, because I'm very big on who you allow in your space and in your environment, and your environment will totally influence you as a person. So if long term you want marriage, you want to have that special person, at some point you cannot allow your hoe phase to be a crutch and just say, well, this is just what I'm doing, knowing in the back of your mind what you really want. You're not going to get it. There's some point where you have to look at what you're doing and how you're moving and understand that other people see that, other people recognize that. And a man is so smart when it comes to looking at a woman and knowing what that woman's potential, worth, value is. So if he looks at you and he can tell that this isn't a phase, it's just how you move, and there's nothing that he can look at beyond that.
Come on,
where do we go from here? So enjoy your hoe phase. Don't feel bad when you're going through it, but also don't get too comfortable, because you will stay there. I mean, you'll look and years will go by.
It's the word you brought up, intentional. Intentional. So, okay, you've gone from the one piece of chocolate and you decide that wasn't yours. Before you find the next piece of chocolate, what are you doing in between that time? And we've talked about this on prior episodes. You're working on yourself.
Yes.
You're using that time to reflect. You talked about meditating, finding out how you clear your brain. You're exercising if that's your jam. If you're traveling if that's your thing. You take the time before, hey, I want to try this next piece of chocolate. That's for me. I'm gonna explore this a little bit more.
And also, to that point, I think, because I was in my hoe phase for quite some time, toward the latter end of my phase, when I was really ready to start to make that transition, I realized about myself that in my hoe phase, I developed a lot of traumas. And so in order for me, I knew I wanted to do better. In order for me to get to a better place, I really had to sit down and identify my traumas that I had developed or that I had prior to going into my hoe phase. Like I had mentioned, I started this when I was 16. I'm still a fucking kid. No 16-year-old should have been doing what I was doing, getting tatted, doing drugs, drinking, hanging around drug dealers. Like,
your mom doesn't watch this, does she?
No, thank God.
But
she knows. Like when I was 16, 17, I had a boyfriend. His name was Hollywood. He went to jail.
That sounds like a drug dealer's name.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was pushing quite a bit. And my mom knew about him. She actually hired a private investigator. I swear to God.
No, Mom.
Because she was so concerned. Is not playing. Because she was so concerned about me. But my parents knew who I was. And when I was a teenager, right? Like I was getting tatted. I was very, very rebellious. But because of that, at such a young age, I had traumas, and I kind of carried that through my whole phase. And I'm not saying that my whole phase was as a result of my traumas. I think that parts of it was. But when I was ready to get out of that phase, I really had to do my meditation. I had to sit down and reflect of what came out of this and what I want to leave behind and what do I want to bring with me forward.
I think it's a really good idea to, if you go through your hoe phase, to follow that up with a healing phase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're in a hoe phase, you're not working through the things that you need to work on. You're just kind of suppressing them and having a good time and just living life. And so if you go directly from that to jumping right into a relationship, there's going to be a lot of problems that arise. And that man or woman is going to have to be very patient with you because you didn't go through the healing of what your last relationship or prior relationships put you through. Yeah. So, okay, step 1, hoe phase. Step 2, heal phase. Step 3.
So go see episode 1, healing from your past trauma.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like you have to. And I just think it works in tandem. It works in tandem. Like you're going to get stuck in step 1 if you don't start thinking about step 2 or, doing it at the same time.
And you typically know when you're ready to go to step 2.
I felt it. I knew.
You
feel it.
I knew.
You feel it, but it's that word you brought up, intentional. You have to be so intentional during this time. Just as intentional as possible you can be during this time. And if you're intentional about just having sex, be intentional about it. Be safe.
Be safe, y'all.
Be
For
safe.
real,
Be
safe.
intentional about it, but be intentional with the person you're having it with, and that's Cece's point. Like, if they're wanting a relationship and they want it with you, you need to be intentional about letting them know. Like, I am not in that space mentally and emotionally. However, I'm enjoying my time with you. Okay, so that word intentional is very important in all of these.
I think a good topic to end on is talking about all of the negative things that can come from a hoe phase, or like what things to really look out for, because you mentioned, sex.
Yeah.
There's STDs. There's babies. There's emotional ties that you might think you're on a hoe phase, and you slip up and you have sex with somebody, and now your emotions are caught up, and it's two people who are on the same phase, but now you're feeling differently, and you're feeling like you don't have value or worth because that person doesn't want to accept you, even though y'all both were on the same journey, and you just changed up because you got caught up in your feelings. And for a lot of women, we could do that. I know for sure the moment I have sex with somebody, I'm like, so you my man? Like, I don't, I'm not able to.
I wasn't like that. I was not like that.
Well, I just never really, even during my hoe phase, I had a one night stand situation and never talked to him again because I was so embarrassed that I had sex within such a short time frame of knowing him. I was like, oh God, I'm just going to fall off the face of the earth because he's probably like, she's a hoe. Like, I just had this mindset around it. But so you just got to know the type of girl that you are. Like, are you a Cece? Are you a Brie? Are you an Angela? Because all of us we're different. So it's, how do you know how to protect yourself? Not just protecting your goods, but protecting your heart, because that will mess a girl up. Don't fall for the wrong dude in your hoe phase.
I think
that's
that
the worst.
We kind of touched on it, the men versus women in these phases.
Yeah.
And if you just want to get downright fundamental, like with our bodies, women can get pregnant. Men can't get pregnant. Women can get pregnant. And,
which makes it worse for the man, because if a man gets a woman pregnant, it's her choice what she's going to do with that baby.
Oh, yes. We see all the time.
We have the option of choosing, but keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say that at the end of the day, women, we get pregnant.
Yeah.
If we decide to keep a baby and the man does not want to be part of that decision. Ooh, I see the eyes.
Girl.
We are saddled with a child at the end of it. And I think that's a big, difference between the men and the women. There's men out there who are going to be there. But there's still men out there who are not.
Being a single mother is no fucking
not a joke.
It's
not a joke. And I don't know about it. I don't know about it because I'm not a single mother. So
being a mother with a supportive husband is no fucking joke.
Right.
Being a single mother.
I just, shout out to every single mom out
yes,
there.
Y'all. We see y'all think keep doing what you're doing, sis. We are here to support you.
I love you, Mom.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's that is something that could be a con. It could be a pro. You have a beautiful child that comes from the situation, but as a woman, at the end of the day, men cannot get pregnant.
And it's also a reminder too, like if you do have a kid out of a situation like that and the father isn't around, it's a reminder every day that you see that baby.
It's a reminder when you see that little baby. You
were uncautious.
You made a bad decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the STDs that don't go away. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big thing. And that's a man and a woman problem, obviously.
Yep. Yeah.
So, but again, you brought up emotions. I'm not a man, so I can't express how that would feel on a man's side during this phase, and having sex with someone and feeling a certain emotion during that. I know men are, and they're getting better in this day and age, but they're taught to handle their emotions differently than women. So
Thank you. Damn, Cece, you have a very strong
blow. For an asthmatic, I actually think I have pretty good lungs.
For those of you who are not watching us, you're listening. I just did a hand fan because I'm hot, and Cece from the right side of the room.
Thing is, I felt that. I felt the air while I was mid-thought, and I was just like, what's going on?
We need to turn on the AC.
We saved Bree. We saved Bree's eye. Is that what we did? I don't even know where I was going. All I was saying, I think what I was saying is that, women emotionally, when we have sex, I know personally me, you can get really, really messed up. Like you can get really messed up. You can get really attached. And I know there's times where you don't. And I know there's women who don't at all, or they was that the finger?
That was that it would be me. The only man has been my husband.
Yeah.
And no, there's been 2 others, but fuck them.
Yeah. So I mean, of course, like, during my hoe phase, my exploratory phase, I did have sex with people, and I didn't get attached to all of them. And so I met my husband and got attached to him. However, before that, I would get attached to people. So, it's just, I don't know how it happens with a man in sex, but with us, that can be a total con.
For sure.
Yeah. And it would be nice to see in the comments the man's thoughts on that.
Yes. Fellas?
Yeah, let us know how that feels. Do men get attached in the way
they absolutely do? I've had it happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it's a man and woman thing. I think
it's a human.
I think it's a human thing. Yeah, it's like some girls are cutthroat, some dudes are cutthroat, some dudes are feely all up in their emotions. Some girls are overly attached. It's like it just depends on the person, and also depends on where they are and like why they're in that phase. Because
I was just about to say that it might be the time in their life.
Yeah,
yeah. Like when you said a man is ready and he meets a woman that's not.
Yeah.
How does that pan out?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, we're talking about this because we're talking about the negatives of the hoe phase. So that could be a negative for a man.
Yeah.
We know our negatives. Obviously, one is, which might not necessarily be a negative, but you can get pregnant. STDs are on both sides. The attachment that could happen. Anything else?
No, that's it for me. No other negatives when it comes to a hoe phase.
I would say the main negative that I would think of is that it's almost like putting on a blocker to like really what you want out of life. It's almost like kind of putting you stagnant a little bit, because if you are just careless and you're just doing whatever, again, you're not being intentional about what you ultimately want.
Right.
And you could end up getting distracted by so many people, because sometimes it's easier to deal with one person than it is 10. Like how do you keep 10 people straight?
The people who do that is talent. I don't know
if you're
exploring
at one point,
okay.
for sure.
It's time consuming.
It is, but it isn't, right? Because I wasn't giving each of them the same.
Is your phone
the
super
same amount?
Lit? Like,
it is, but I wasn't giving each of them the same amount of effort. Yeah. And also, back to you need to communicate your intentions. They
have low expectations.
Low expectations. They're like they know I will get back to them when I can, and but whenever I'm around, it's always gonna be a good time.
Yeah, That makes sense. Well. All right. So we covered what a hoe phase is, when it's appropriate to go through it, the men versus women differences, and our own experiences and pros and cons. Yeah. I think we kind of covered it, ladies.
It would be really cool to hear what people think in the comments.
Yeah.
For sure.
Make sure we read your comments, guys, and they are very helpful. Let us know like what other topics you want to hear about. Let us know what your opinions are on a quote unquote hoe phase. And yeah, we're going to cheers it up. Where's my wine? There it is.
Funny arm thing.
All right, ladies. So cheers.
Too many drinks back here.
I know. We got coffee, water, wine. We got all the things. Cheers, ladies, to another great episode of For the Girls. See y'all later.
See ya.